Well, I'm going to wait for my partner, my streaming partner, Michael Bryan. He'll be right with us in a second because I want to talk about the dig that Joe Tacopina just made. And Michael, I can see you're wiring up because he had 10 questions and Michael's been busy writing them down.
Yeah.
And not only, but so the prosecution didn't have to write them down. What did he do? He said, I am going to leave those 10 questions right here and see if they can answer them. I thought that was what a stage move that was.
Yeah,
Even
it was good.
Lewin was tired to object on that.
How could you object?
How can you object? Well, you could. He was like, oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I counted like 32, 33 objections. The judge didn't have that, but who the heck knows anymore? All I know is that we'll talk a little bit about what went to, but talk about those questions because our viewers are voting like not guilty, right?
Yeah, in fact, I was just looking at our poll that we've had on our community tab, and it's now at 85% not guilty, 7% guilty, and still not sure was 8%.
So that would be one juror out of 12 if you extrapolate it.
8.2% would be one juror. Yeah.
That's what you kind of extrapolate. You never know what a jury is going to do, which is why Mr. Tacopina took a long time to go through every single bit of the evidence.
Oh, yes.
Boy, Michael Bryan, talk to me about what happened in that courtroom.
Well, you want to get into the questions? Let me see if I need to note.
Yeah, get into it.
So the self-defense thing came up. I think that was good. One thing he mentioned, and this was a little bit earlier before our first break, when Tacopina was up at the board there, and he's pointing out this blob is this person, this blob is this person, and then as he wanders off, he said, Judge, there's a nail sticking out of the like the wood there near the witness stand, and he just throws it out there. He's like, can I get my suit paid for if I snag my suit? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that real moment stuff that juries love.
Yeah, they do.
They just do.
They do. They absolutely love that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got notes everywhere here, but if you see my desk, I have notes everywhere. Like I'm trying the case.
So here was question number 1. And a lot of these were prefaced with, other than Relly's word, because this gets back to the central theme we've talked about from the day one of Relly's, perjurious, is that a word? Perjurious testimony.
Yes.
How are you going to resurrect this guy? He's clearly not going to resurrect himself. What else can you do? And so Joe's points have been, other than Relly's testimony, answer these questions. So other than Relly's words, what evidence that there were any casings found at the scene? What evidence you have other than Relly's word? Okay. And these are all obviously designed to be answered with nothing. You got nothing. Because if the jury comes to that conclusion, then obviously it's a not guilty. Number 2, other than Relly's words, any evidence casings came, let's see, I'm trying to read my writing as I was jotting it down.
Any evidence that the shell casings came from the scene?
Yes. Casings, first of all, casings came from the scene, second of all. And again, he was there, he wasn't there. That's still totally unclear. He's contradicted himself. Relly said he was there. That's me on video. Oh, no, it's not me on video. Number 3, other than Relly's words, what evidence that he even went back to the scene? Right. Other than his testimony, what evidence that this was interesting, I thought, that he ever left LA between the shooting range incident, which was 2 weeks before, and the night of the incident.
That was interesting. That was really interesting.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, okay, where's he going with this? What's the real intent of this, other than to show that Relly lies about virtually everything? And I don't know if there is a substantive reason for it. I think it purely goes to his credibility.
Right? I think he said he went back to New York. Remember?
Well, he said that, but whether he did or not, who cares? Except as to credibility, because substantively, it doesn't really affect what may or may not have happened then.
And also as to how the prosecutors didn't get any evidence. They could have gotten plane tickets, they could have gotten metadata, they could have gotten all that. So I think it also goes not into credibility, but to the prosecutor's willingness not to check up on him.
It does support how horrible the investigation was. Yes, that is true. I have here number 5, other than Relly's testimony, what evidence is there that the scrapes were caused by a bullet?
Oh, that's a good one, right?
Yeah, that's
There's
a good one.
no medical evidence,
There's no
right?
doctor. There's no nothing. Number six,
Right.
other than his testimony. What about a conversation between ASAP, and I couldn't hear which ASAP he was talking about, and Rocky. There was supposedly a conversation on the 6th of November, the day after the incident, or late into the evening after the incident.
I think it was read between Relly and Rocky.
Okay, and
Right.
so what evidence is there of that? Because that one was not recorded, and
There was nothing on the phone that they had.
obviously
Right.
Rocky didn't testify, so Relly's only testimony about it. Number seven, and he referenced Lou Levin's testimony here, but other than Relly's testimony, what evidence that Relly did not know about the prop gun?
Yeah. What evidence that
carried.
Rocky did not carry a prop gun? Right.
Yeah.
What evidence was
And of
there?
course, Lou Levin said no. People knew that,
Right.
which of course explains why Relly would chase after, however he was going, walking fast, skipping, running. However, Relly was pursuing, following these guys.
Right.
You don't
Right.
do that if you've just been shot at. You just don't. Number nine, how do you not need his truthful testimony? Remember this, after Relly just lied left, right, and center. On redirect, he's asked by Paulie P. If oh no, I'm sorry. He was asked. This was Flores was asked this. Flores was asked. Remember, Detective Flores was asked.
Right.
If you ignore Relly's testimony, can you still get to your conclusion that a real
Right.
gun was fired in this case?
Right.
And the jury's got to ask themselves that question.
Right.
How would anybody get to that conclusion without believing Relly's testimony?
Right.
Then let's see what else I've got here that I can't read very well. Number nine. I did number 9, didn't I?
Yes, you just did number 9. So you're on 10.
Oh no, number 8
No,
was
you mean-
evidence that Relly was shot by a semi-automatic. That was number 8.
Yeah, we did that. Right. Yeah.
Other than his
right.
testimony. And then number 10, Relly
Shot by a Glock, not just a testimony, but a Glock
yes,
semi-automatic. Right.
Yes. And then my last one was really scribbled fast. Let's see. If then you really, how do you trust? It was a weird way he phrased the question. It was something like, how can you trust Relly on any point, having heard his testimony in this case? How can you trust him
in an important decision for life? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and something you would
that.
ask him to do. Kind of a broad, kind of philosophical question.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
guy's a lying sack of dog poop. How can you trust him on any level?
Right.
And he
I
has
think that goes because there's a jury charge that may
yes,
say
that's exactly what I was going to say.
In California,
the jury charge in California is very clear. It says, if you find that a witness has been untruthful on anything, you can find they've been untruthful on everything, or you can find they've just been untruthful on one point. Well, with Relly, you've got 20, 30 things that he was untruthful about. In fact, I challenge people to find things he was truthful about, and they're going to be inconsequential, I think.
Well, maybe his name.
Well, again, inconsequential,
Yeah, that was good. I showed he was aggressive. Law nerd, PHL. Joe should have said, how do you think he was with Rocky? He'd react to Joe if they were on the streets. I think he said something about if he reacted to Joe this way, in the court, this way. What do you think he's like on the streets? What do you think he's like on the streets?
Yeah, this is him controlled, right?
This is him controlled.
But that's what I said from early on, that, this was not his comfortable place, right? Relly totally out of control. And I mean that by having no control. Not that he was out of control, just it's not where he's running the show. And in his world, he's used to running the show. So he gets aggravated, frustrated, lashes out when he isn't controlling the show, right? And speaking of lashing out, I think one of the best points Joe made that the prosecution's really going to have trouble rebutting, I think, who was the aggressor, right?
Right.
Who was the aggressor?
That grabbing.
If you look at the video, even that part, at best, that's a push, right?
Right.
Think about who has the motive to be aggressive initially, right? It was Relly that was so mad, whether it was about the Josh's funeral expenses that may or may not have been promised and then not paid for, but he was anxious about what Rocky was able to have for himself and what he was maybe not sharing. Rocky clearly had risen way above Relly, and that angered Relly. That's his motivation to confront Rocky. What's Rocky's motivation to confront Relly?
None. Yes, no. There's no upside. There's no upside. What's he get from Relly?
Yeah, I can't think of one other than being annoyed perhaps by him because he, was angry Relly's angry at Rocky. So does that cause enough concern, anger on Rocky's part to go after Relly and say, stop bugging me, stop being a dick? I don't think so. I think the jury would have to believe that to find that Rocky was the aggressor. The evidence suggests Relly was the aggressor for so many more reasons.
Right. Now it's Sissy says, where's Relly's girlfriend that supposedly went back with him to get the casings?
Yeah.
Where is she? I would imagine her lawyer told her not to testify.
If you believe, and I want to make sure I get the words right here.
Yeah.
If I believe what Joe said, Lydia Parker, let me make sure I have it here. She was doing what she does. She was busy doing what she does.
Okay. Yeah, but she's over there. And then thank you, Katna Williamson. The first time she knew of the allegations that were made by Attorney Yokelson of the unethical conduct in a case that was reversed was from Justice Serve TV. So we try to bring you what we know when we know it. Micah L said some people on TikTok found her adult website and she locked it. Yeah. And the problem you have there is that all these
getting too much business.
Are gonna be with it. Hi, Moon Goddess. How are you? Totally agree with you, Michael. We mentioned you the other night, and when you weren't on. All good. Talking about how our viewers are great. Then you got Phoebe Purvis Lewin. Lewin seeks to, and he's taking this personal. Yeah,
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and he's just aggressive, and he really is, and he can't control himself. I received actually a text message, and you all love Neil Rockhind, who hasn't been able to come on. We try to get him on today, but he may come on later. But he said Lewin is out of his mind, out of his mind, because he's so aggressive. I mean, he's just so aggressive. I mean, what? Where's the stop on this? And he finally, I think, met his match with Joe Tacopina. He just met his match. I mean, Joe's not going to back down with him. But then Lewin, we'll have the whole. And if I, by the way, based on the girlfriend too. Relly said she went to the scene. If she didn't go to the scene, she's not going to get up there and commit perjury. And I'm sure that they
would have needed that. In light of that video, they would have needed her to do that.
Right. They would have needed her to come up. And
now talk about suborning perjury. There you go.
Yeah. Then you really had. There was always objections about the prosecutors about whether he was suborning perjury if you put somebody up and continue on with the prosecution because he perjured himself. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I know in California you can't disparage you can't disparage the other side. You can't disparage one side and say they're unethical. That's in the rules.
All right. And it's always subject to the judge's interpretation, about what is disparaging versus what is, aggressive advocation. It's the judge's call, as most things are. Okay,
this is what I don't get. Normal people say, if prosecution knows someone's lying, you can't say you accepted that they're lying and you put them on the stand. That's unethical. I mean, it seems to me that the normal people watching court shows think that if a prosecution knows a witness is lying and put them on the stand and they lie, that should be common, because isn't that what is in the scheme of what normal people look at ethics unethical?
Well, it's common sense. And just because you won't let him say it in a way that the judge thinks is unethical doesn't mean the jury doesn't already understand that.
Right.
They get it, right? But I thought, Lewin set himself up because he's saying to the court, if I'm unethical, and the court knows this, if I'm unethical, it'll be the first time. And then whoa, heads up, because here comes that Ninth Circuit decision, dum-dum, where you were found by the court to have lied to a jury, and the case was overturned as a result. So maybe you forgot that unethical thing that happened. So at least in this case, say to the judge, if I am unethical, judge, it'll only be the second time. Only the second time. I'm doing pretty good.
And then Lewin yells at Joe, there goes your steroids. I mean, this is, I think the judges had it, but he was yelling at the judge. The judge said, low, and I'm going to shout it, lower your voice and don't yell at me.
Yeah.
Just like that. Okay?
First time he said that, because Lewin's default position is loud like a maniac. That's his default. And the judge has told him many times, lower your voice.
Right.
And, I don't know. I haven't been in a jury room there, but the building is not exactly soundproof. This is LA construction. If you go to New York, where the walls are, cinder block and super thick and probably deader sound,
Right.
in LA, when you're getting that loud, I'm not so sure the jury's not hearing that.
I don't know. There's usually like a little corridor down to the
Yeah,
down,
but
and with a bathroom in it for the jurors, and then they go into the jury room. So if they come out to go to the bathroom, you can kind of hear in that little corridor. That's how all the courtrooms
and
are
you could
usually
also
built there.
hear, the jurors. You can hear them in the jury room if you're in that corridor. You can hear if they get, if it goes to 12 Angry Men.
Right. Yeah.
I
People are
remember
always listening, right? People are always listening. That's
well,
why they make sure people don't go in the courtroom when there's
I
deliberation.
know.
Right.
I
Right.
remember covering a case for Court TV once where I had a source that told me after hearing jurors discussing things that they had a count basically of where they were in their deliberations. And for my source, I said, here's what I'm hearing is going on, because it was a case that had been dragging on, right? And I reported that. The judge called me in and kicked me out. You're out.
So, really?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So I had to return to New York, and Savannah Guthrie, who I worked with at the time, who's now, of course, at NBC, she went down and was there to take the verdict. But I was reporting what was verified by a source. The judge, and I'm thinking, and I told the judge, I said, "You think the jury is watching us, watching Court TV in there while they're deliberating?"
No, that's the whole point. They're not supposed to.
So sometimes judges get a little carried away in terms of what they think is protecting the process, right?
Yeah, and then the other thing the judge said, which is what we're talking about, the judge said, well, listen, he said that's not legal extortion, what he did. That's not legal extortion. The judge said, forcing someone to pay money is extortion. It may not be legal extortion, but
and he said
extortion.
It's an argument. It's an argument.
And it's an argument, which is what we're saying, that you force somebody to pay money when they're not supposed to. And the judge said it uses hands. It's extortion. And Lewin's arguing it's not legal extortion. It doesn't satisfy the definition of legal extortion. Therefore, it is improper argument.
Yeah, well,
give me a break.
Last time I looked, extortion is not in the indictment for anybody. So this is not a situation in which you need to prove elements of extortion to talk about extortion, right?
Right.
And the court agreed. You throw it out there. It's an inflammatory word. So what? It is what it is, and it was used by Relly.
So, I don't think he's fed up with the sound of his voice, because this is how he acts. This is how, apparently, if you read that article from National Enquirer, and you must read it. We posted it on our website because it came out just the other day. I mean, it's something. This is how he acts, and it's interesting. Joe doesn't put up with it.
Yeah, that's what he said was, hey, if we're just gonna air everything that's happening, and Joe was like, whoa, like that's a bad thing. That's like, bring it on, dude.
Yeah, bring it on, because we know all about you. We know all about you and how you act.
Yeah, if you want to talk dirty laundry, my friend, Lewin does not want to open that can of worms.
And they're going to be interesting to see whether or not, because remember, he's got a rebuttal closing. Technically, the rebuttal closing is supposed to be just to rebut what the defense said, but the defense went everywhere, right? But it's not supposed to go over the territory that you had in your opening and restate it. So it's to show why it may have been good despite what the defense said. He's going to go, and he's going to want to go all day and into next Tuesday. You know it. And the question is the judge going to stop him? Is the judge going to say, no, I'm going to stop you. That's enough. You've had enough.
I mean, it comes back at 1:00 their time. Is there a chance he goes past 4?
Oh, God, chance? The judge, judge promised the jury they would be deliberating today.
I know. So what's the over-under on how long he goes?
4
o'clock?
4 o'clock.
Because the judge has already instructed them, so it would take 2 minutes for him to give them the case. The next question becomes, will he let them stay late? Yeah,
the exhibits also, because
the exhibits, which Joe
he asked whether or not they could see.
I guess he learned that. Normally, at the end of the case, when you're marking exhibits and everything, you kind of learn at that point, what's the jury going to get, and what are they not going to get? Are they going to have a laptop or some other way to play?
He learned they are. Yeah,
they are. But usually, by then. Joe apparently learned it during the course of his closing, and said, "Oh, good. Oh, you're going to see this stuff." So you could run it like the Zapruder film, forward and back, and that's good.
We've been calling it the Zapruder film, right? We've been like, but it's good. But they're going to want to do it. They're going to want to do it, no matter what they do, what they think. They're going to want to see the evidence, because they've been sitting there, so they're going to want to see the evidence. So what's the likelihood now that they come back on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, if it comes down to a 4 o'clock, okay, here's the case, but 5 o'clock local time, we're going to end for the weekend, I'd say they're definitely coming back Tuesday.
Yeah, if the judge says that's it, because some people have, I guess, have plans. I think they have a one juror that's a child care issue
Yes,
too.
because she actually
Yeah.
had an issue getting there this morning at 9.
But she got there. She got there pretty close to 9.
Sometimes
Once
people
she
just,
finished, yeah.
it's inconvenient. And let's face it,
Yeah.
I respect all jurors who do what they have to do. It disrupts their
Right.
lives to get in that
Yeah.
box and do their
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
But
so I think
sometimes
that-
you can kind of make it work if, even if it's a grumbling, as we say in the contract world, a grumbling acceptance. You're like, okay, judge, it's a pain in my ass, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
And that person did.
Yeah. Afi did post it. I think we read it word for word. We're trying to get it on, but we have Chris Tacopina for. And even if Chris is on when Lewin starts, we're just going to mute Lewin for a while because the screaming. We want to hear from Chris Tacopina for 10 minutes. Lewin's going to be going on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, we got a couple of options. We can pause it and push it, or we can just let it roll. And I suggest we just let it roll. And we're going to talk to Chris for 15-20 minutes and
just over it. Although Missy said she could let it roll at 1.25 times to catch up, right?
That's an interesting, that's maybe the best way to listen to Lewin in general, maybe 1.5 times. Yeah.
1 right. It's like, so pause it, but that's, I mean, it just, I don't even know what to say. What was your overall, and looking at our viewers and our chat, and we have 233 people right now chatting. If you're lurking outside, because I know there's a lot more of you outside, come on in. Missy says she'd rather talk to Chris Tacopina. Well, Missy's been dealing with Chris, getting him on the air.
Well, let's not get into the relationship between Missy and Chris. I think she's got a fangirl kind of thing going on there. I do credit her for stalking him though, and finding him and getting him into the mix.
Yeah, and getting him into the mix because he was on Twitter, right? Rice Street says the judge is going to shut Lewin down. He's tired, boss. I mean, I think the judge is tired of him. I think the judge really is. Yep. And he's gonna and Joe did take long, but part of him taking long was the 30-some objections. You got, that's at least 30 seconds a period of time, so, you're talking about another 15 minutes being added in, because of the objections. And sometimes it was more. So, it was ridiculous. And, this, the disparity, Joe only objected once yesterday, right? And just let the prosecutor talk, right? But I think the jury sees the disparity when they're starting to say, well, they let the prosecutor talk, but it's been this way the whole way. The prosecution doesn't want the jury to hear everything.
Yeah. And of course, Joe can't comment on that because they do have the right to make objections. And, about a third of the time they were sustained. So fine. But it's not a procedural question. It's a perception question on the part of the jury. What are they thinking about this guy that is objecting to what seems like to the jury innocuous stuff? It sounds desperate. And so when they hear him get up there and start beating his chest about how great the prosecution case is and how dumb you are if you don't convict Rocky, it just compounds their perception of this blowhard. That's what I think he's a blowhard.
It was gone really just, Sheila Duffy says if Lewin shouts all the way through his closing, he'll think the jury will believe everything because he's shouting.
Yes.
Do you think if he continues to shout because the judge said, don't shout at me, that the judge could say to him, that's it, time's up? Okay?
I don't know if he would do that. I think he could tone him down. So, Mr. Lewin, the jury's right in front of you. You really don't need to shout. I could see that. I don't know if he would cut him off for shouting.
Yeah, Hashar Logan says the prosecution knew that really picked up evidence from the scene and came to the police without medical records and with a private lawyer. And Lewin is yelling about ethics. So that's what I think driving people crazy.
Calling the kettle black. Oh, hey, look what I got.
Doug, oh my goodness, there you are. What a Dunkin' bag.
Look what was in my Dunkin' bag. Isn't that weird?
Oh my God, a shell. You're going to show everybody shell. That's legal for you to have in Connecticut. You have the right to have that shell.
Well, of course. This is
I just like it, sure.
Yeah, of course. Where are we? The Soviet Union? Of course. But that's a pretty typical Dunkin' bag.
Yeah, usually they're not brown or black plastic. Yeah. And I've seen so many posts on X from people following this and talking about how there's no Dunkin' open at 11 o'clock. There was in 2020. There just wasn't because they couldn't go out and get the Dunkins.
With all the crap that really spread, it's just another little, what a surprise,
You know, Lisa says the prosecutor reminds me, and this is not your wife, Lisa. I just want to make that clear. The prosecutor reminds me of Patrick Bateman in the movie American Psycho. I guess the Psycho part, right?
American Psycho, yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna
So
have to get into
yeah,
better shape, but
it's
yeah.
fizzy again. Says, where's the charge for Relly for perjury on the stand? You
You
know.
know, we've talked about it, and you can be literally convicted of perjury if the facts suggest, and they do in this case. It just isn't very often pursued. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Not as a standalone.
It's just I want to talk more about the what happened though in court. I mean, this whole they were at odds earlier in the week, but you think that Lewin got worse today because he felt that Joe Tacopina just I use the word killed, but not in the sense of somebody's killed, but killed it in
He
the
definitely
closing.
he crushed him, and I think as much as Joe went, in my opinion, longer than he needed to, repeated too many things that he didn't need to repeat, it did have the effect of grating on Lewin,
Okay.
more and more and more. And maybe that was part of the plan.
Maybe that was part of the plan, right? Who knows? Because it did. As we went along, we started out, and we were kind of kidding when you were out initially early on about, well, there's 17, with 15, 16, 17. And then it exploded me. It exploded. It just exploded, right? In terms of how many objections. And they kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming.
Yeah, I think the judge undercounted for sure.
I think he did
missed
too.
a few.
Yeah, a few. I think, I think he did too.
I mean, I thought it was well over 30, and he's still.
Yeah, we had
Even
32
that
or
part
33.
clip we just heard was prior to the last part of the argument, which had a few more.
Right.
So even by the judge's count, it's over 20.
Yeah. So here's according to the block, according to Offie, this is what happened. Again, let's repeat it. After contentious discussion with the judge about the prosecutor suborning perjury. Now, what does suborning perjury mean? It's a legal term, right? That you actually, it's not that you put them up knowing they're going to perjure themselves, but you ask them to perjure themselves. That's the distinction legally. But most people think if you put somebody up who's lying, you're suborning perjury. You and I, as defense attorneys, if we did that, we'd be like, in the Hooskow. Lewin won, and he shouted it. More word out of him, and we're airing everything in this case, and the court knows about it. Your time is coming, buddy. Tacopina, oh, I'm so scared of you. Everyone's worried about you. Everyone's worried about your mental health. Lewin, any idea when you'll be finished? Taco, whenever the FU I want. Lewin, the steroids really are affecting you. Taco, you're hunched like a hunchback. The judge notes that Lewin has made 17 objections, overruled 12, and sustained 5. This is in. There was some more said, okay, that we didn't, that Offie didn't get because it was going fast and furious in there. And the judge, I think the judge had it right. I think he had it. He just said, "Stop it."
It just seems he's had it a number of times, and he just wants this done, right?
Right.
It'll be very interesting in that hearing after the fact where they tally up these sanctions. If he softens a little bit, I guess it'll depend on when he has the hearing. The sooner it comes after the trial, I think the hotter he's going to remain. But he just seems like a guy that's pretty even measured, and it took Lewin and the fight with Joe Tacopina to really get his hackles up and to make him. I think the judge is uncomfortable in this setting.
I think he's tried to keep control of it.
Yeah,
and he can't. And it's not that it's Tacopina, because Tacopina didn't do the objecting. It's Lewin. It's Lewin. He's crazed at this point. He's crazy.
Yeah, but once they start going at one another, as they did in that most recent break, the judge is in his spot. Nobody's comfortable in that spot. It's unprofessional by both sides. It's unprofessional, and the judge it doesn't like to be put in that position.
Well, I tell you what, though, Lewin has gotten away with it for so long. And he said, "Come at me. All right, you want to come at me?"
Oh, yeah. I don't blame him.
He's gotten away with it for so long. I think people are scared of him, and judges are scared of him, or he seems to be on the right side of a very popular case. And he's just gotten away with it. He's gotten away with this, I mean, even when he called me from Law and Crime, I had some very nice conversations with him about, some commentators on the air don't know, what they're talking about and all. But the fact that he called to suggest that one of my commenters was an idiot, basically, didn't know what he's talking about, didn't like him, or complain about the bent of something, that who picks up the phone and does that? Who picks up the phone and does that?
I think a very insecure person.
Right,
That's what
or
I think.
most people would be, shall we say, maybe they'd be more careful. Not careful is not the right word, but be scared or be pushed back, right? Because they feel it more threatening than I would. I just feel that this was somebody who just couldn't control himself for calling, you know. So that's where we are. And Tubi's feeling the same way. Hi,
Tubi is too.
Tubi. Would you like to come on in?
Hey, here's an important note from Brooklyn. Missy, I got a card in the coffee mug to take a picture and post it. Didn't understand what that means. Missy, can you help Brooklyn? My best explanation is just take a picture of the mug with your favorite beverage in it and put that on social media.
Right. I think
That's it.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
We're about how far
I
away
put
from
that
the
in. I put that in
5,000?
all of them just to promote the fact that we gave away the mug for the Where in the World is Justice thing.
Yeah, yeah, and Justice will be on the road soon. Again, right now there was no reason to go to the California. Oh, we're having a little Tubi issue outside.
Yes.
Tubi wants to play with his mother because he says his mother's been
Yeah.
forgetting him.
I think
And
Tubi's
he's
doing
kind of,
his Lewin impression.
yeah. No, please don't say that about Tubi. Tubi is adorable. Elisa points out the judge needs a long vacation after this trial. Missy, I'm sorry, not Missy. Let me look at this. Magiani, and then there's an @P. Says, does the squabbles affect Rocky in any way? I thought Rocky stood there very nicely. You know, I think they took their jackets out initially because they thought they were going to lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you saw Rocky had to put his jacket back on, but Joe didn't bother because they thought they were leaving for lunch. And you leave for lunch, you're leaving for lunch. There's very few places to eat there. You either eat upstairs in the courthouse or there'll be a local restaurant close by. But by the time you get to the restaurant and come back, it's time to get right back to trial, which is why there's really nothing that close to the courthouse to eat. So, but I think they thought
it's
that.
a nasty area to be hanging out.
Right. You know better than I do.
Yeah,
You know
it's not
better
good.
than I do. But no, I thought that Rocky handled himself very well. Joe was like, yeah,
Yeah, I would
I'm
love
waiting
to
for
have a
this again.
conversation with Rocky about, how this whole thing is playing out in his head. What's his reaction to everything? As somebody who's kind of involved,
Right,
in
right.
what's happening and his fate.
Right. I mean, he's sitting there. Right. Exactly. He's just sitting or standing there, being very, subdued. And this is, I'm sure this is his life and it's worrisome. But yes, you wanted the conversation because all this is going on around him. Like there's a hurricane going on.
Yeah, and it's
tornado,
almost
right?
like, hello, this is my freedom, my life going on here, and to some degree, it may feel like it's devolved away from him as the defendant in the case. It's all become about these big personalities.
But that may be good, though. That may be good
It
in
may
this case.
be. I would
I
just
think
love
that's
to get
very.
his take on it, and
Yeah,
I'd love to
yeah.
get Rihanna's take on it. In fact, she's here. Just a minute. Oh no, she's.
Oh, stop. She was in court.
We're
Yesterday.
babysitting for her, so it's
No,
okay.
come on. I would do the same thing. I mean, the jury has to see. He said that the thing was that Relly was jealous, according to the defense, of everything that Rocky had, and it was the prosecution who puts up the picture right in their opening of Rihanna, and then when the defense says he's married to a beautiful superstar, and the prosecution goes objection, right?
Okay, I have the proverbial bone to pick with you on this because
Okay.
I think you were taking what I believe is a legitimate attack on the bias of a witness, and you're turning it into some sort of criminal allegation against Rihanna. I think that's crazy. What they were doing was saying, you have to acknowledge that Rocky, and to a greater degree, Riri, had the ability to squash somebody's career. Not that they will, not that they did, but that it could affect the testimony of that person. I think that's perfectly legitimate. And
I think that you're bringing Rihanna into it. She is not on trial, right?
no, and it's
There's
not
been
accusing her of anything. It's just stating the
well,
reality that these people in power can affect this lowly witness.
but there's no indication that she would affect this lowly witness.
No, but it's an argument in closing. You could make that argument.
Oh, I just think that I do. I think that
I don't think you're accusing somebody of a crime by suggesting that their position is in power.
You are accusing them of the crime. You're accusing them of a crime of because they didn't testify.
What crime? Okay, what crime is that?
On the thing,
what crime?
That retaliation of some sort, right, under the law.
I could see maybe a civil action for maybe some sort of interference with prospective economic advantage. Hey, you lost a job because we suggested somebody not hire you. That's not a crime.
Well,
That's
it's
a
kind of
civil
like
tort.
it's almost like
It's
a
a civil
blackmail
tort.
type thing. I'll find a crime.
But they didn't
I'm
even
going to
go
find a
that
crime.
far. If they'd
Yeah,
gone
but
that far, I might
they
feel
shouldn't have
more
done it
about
at
it.
all. But they
I
shouldn't
think
have
it's
done it
a
at all.
perfectly acceptable argument to leave the jury with to suggest that this witness may not be truthful because he's afraid. That may be fear on the part of the witness, and that means no action. That means no action on the part of Rocky or Riri. But in the mind of the witness,
he didn't say anything. We're gonna fight here. We didn't say anything about he never said anything about Rihanna. It was the prosecution who said it. So I think when you're the prosecutor, you bring that up. I think that's totally inappropriate.
I think in the mind of the witness, whether it's true or not, whether it's happened or not, whether it will happen or not, if this witness thinks that these people can affect his livelihood, it could affect his testimony. That's legitimate.
Oh, I mean, the 30 million certainly didn't affect his testimony with the perjury and asking for 30 million. He didn't think they were that important. He didn't think they were that powerful.
Well, he was talking about it too in the sense of the other witnesses, Lou Levin, Wally, those other folks who were in some position of gaining economic advantage. Well, yeah,
Wally's a tech person. He made $20,000 from ASAP. He flew from Paris.
20,000 here, 20,000 there. Pretty soon it adds up to real money.
Yeah.
For some people, 20 grand is a chunk of money.
I think when I think that when you say that's kind of like tampering with witnesses. I think that's exactly the
You're
situation.
Focusing on the other end of the argument. I'm talking about in the witness's brain. If it potentially affects that witness's testimony, even if they're out of whack about what these powerful people can do, it affects their testimony, and that's legitimate.
All right, so we agree to disagree. Obviously, it was an appropriate question because it went out. But I think
yes.
that
it wasn't objected to. Interesting.
Yeah, interestingly, and I think that's because she's not on trial. She's his wife. She's sitting there when somebody's wanted $30 million and trying to put her husband in jail. Oh, she's so powerful that you're going to accuse her of trying to tamper with this witness.
See, that's where you've taken it off the rails. It's not an accusation on them. It's the witness's belief that something could happen. Not something that did, their belief. Okay, right. So I think we've beaten that to death.
We've beaten that to death. I just think that you don't try to demean a woman who's a self-made person, like she is. And
it's not demeaning her. It's
I know
the witness's perception of power.
As a juror,
I know you're very sensitive about it. You're very defensive on her behalf.
Oh, sensitive, not defensive.
Riri's going to be fine. Riri will be just fine. Don't worry.
Okay, so Miriam McPherson asks us to get back to what this case is about. If Rocky is found guilty, can he appeal? Let's first somebody had a question about what were the options of the jury. So why don't we do that and then talk about whether he could appeal if he were found guilty. The options for the jury are guilty. There's 2 counts. On each count, it's guilty, not guilty, or they have a hung, right? There's no lesser included on each count, right? And then, yes, if he's found guilty, he can appeal.
And we're assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong in my assumption here, the 2 counts, it's because there were 2 shots fired.
Right. That's what they said. The 2 incidents, the 2 shots fired.
That's what I assume. Okay.
That's apparently what the indictments. That's apparently what the indictment says. That's for that. Isabel asked, "Do you think Joe was too long?" I think Joe did what he had to do. I think he made a judgment that he had to cover all the areas. And also, as he saw Lewin getting more riled up. That
was the side benefit of it, I think. And obviously, I think he did go too long, but I'm not in his shoes. And the worst thing you want to do as an attorney is sit down and start thinking, oh, man, I should have covered that. Or what if especially if you get an adverse result, then you really start second guessing it, right?
And we've all done that where we sat down and said.
Well, I always call it the 8 seconds of happiness. The 8 seconds of happiness is when you're done, you sit down, 8 seconds, and then you start thinking what you screwed up, what you should have done, what you should have covered, what you wish you'd covered better. So I get it, but just my opinion, it was too much for this case. And I heard you, another thing I heard you talk about earlier was the Spectre case. And you said you did 6 hours over 2 days, as I recall.
Right.
Perfectly acceptable, makes perfect sense, but it also makes my point. Do you think this case is 75% 4 hours versus 6? 75% as complicated or difficult as Spectre? I don't think it's. I think
no.
It's
we were in court with the jury picking the jury. I think in April, and then we finished in September.
That case is in orbit compared to this very simple case that seems to be.
I could have registered to vote. I was there so long.
Exactly. So you're making my point, and that makes perfect sense. So if people get a chance to go back and look at that closing, get 6 hours. do that.
Okay. Why can't the judge throw Mr. Whining out, Michael?
Mr. Whiny, throw him out of the case.
Yeah, throw him out of the case. That's
No.
it.
No, I mean, I don't think whining is not. I guess if you whine enough, you can be held in contempt, and if that's throwing somebody out of the case, you could have them removed. Not during proceedings, not to prejudice this attorney against him, by the jury. You can't do that in front of the jury. You could punish him. You just can't pluck him from the case and say you're done.
Although right now I think everyone wants to pluck him from the case, although because we have to go through what he's going to do in his rebuttal argument, and gosh knows, I mean, the head it's going, and he's I don't know. Angela Cote says, how can an officer of the court threaten another officer of the court to break a gag order placed by the court and not face any kind of sanctions? I'm not sure what gag.
I'm trying to interpret this, Angela Cote. I think the interpretation is that when Lewin said, we'll let everything out of the bag, or whatever he said, that was somehow breaking the gag order, right?
Got it. I got it. Right. Yeah. I think that's exactly what she's talking about. Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have asked the LADA's office a number of times. We have tweeted at them, and we asked them to undo their gag, undo the gag, so these things can be addressed, open their files up, find out who made the discharging decisions, who put John Lewin on the case, when did that happen, why did that happen? We asked them to open that up, and they're the ones who asked for the gag. That's my recollection. Because Joe Tacopina was I mean, it's not that he was not saying nice things about it, but he didn't like with Tacopina's access. I think it was to TMZ or something like that.
Yeah, it was just that was the initial crying of Lou Weiner.
That's what
led to the gag order. They both being Tacopina then started talking about Hochman, who had made public statements about the case, going beyond what Tacopina thought was appropriate, and so that's when the judge said, "Okay, that's it. Everybody, and you're all gagged.
You're all gagged." So Sheila Duffy, Michael, this is going for you. Will Joe object to Lewin's closing just to be?
I think
spiteful?
Will he? Should he? I'll answer the should he. No, he should not, unless it's outrageously objectionable. Because I think he just looks like the cooler head, the calmer dude, the confident guy, the guy with the best case, the guy with the best client. But will he? I don't know. Joe's not shy, and he can get caught up in this stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I think he is. I think he knows. Well, you know what? I think he's got Lewin down. Okay, I think he's definitely got Lewin down. So I think he'll know if it's the right time to object. SNW Love. If Rocky is found guilty, would he go to prison right away?
I doubt it.
Yeah. I doubt so. Would his bail be revoked?
That's questionable. They'd certainly argue for it, and maybe, but I think what they do is have a limited time where he would, be allowed to get his affairs in order under the current bond at best.
Right.
Because it's not. Remember this: if it were a murder case, yeah, they'd put the cuffs on him and haul him out in the back room. But this is an assault case.
Well, Jason Hodges, Joe brought a jury expert with him today, according to people inside the courtroom. So the question is, did he bring Richard Gabriel, the trial consultant, or did he bring Michelle? Right, Michelle Ward, Dr. Michelle Ward. So that'd be an interesting. We'll have, since I can't. So we should
think they've been there most of the day, most of the court.
I think they had too. I think one
or both.
One or both. Usually, that's been my experience. One or both is in the courtroom most of the time. Sometimes not, but in most of the time. Oasis Cat said they're still watching Inspector Trial Weekly on Murder Church. This is Sunday morning. Well, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you watch the movie afterwards too. You can see the differences. All right, Sheila Duffy has another good. These are all great questions. Do you think the prosecutors will try if hung or not?
Oh boy, I think we would agree that they'd be dumber than they were this time in bringing the case.
Right.
And they shouldn't have brought it this time. How could they possibly retry it? Now I say that with the Karen Reed case hanging over us, right?
Right.
Where similar thinking might prevail. I see that Chris is going to be on at the top of the hour. It looks like at this point audio only.
Okay, so he's going to be
traveling
he's traveling, and as he says, working. So be on the audio audience, but he's going to be. But like we had Moon Goddess was on the other night with audio only, and it was just fine. We'll see his picture. Hopefully we'll see a picture of him. And we're going to thank him, obviously, for making the time because, you know, he does have a job. You know, he does have a job. But we're so thrilled that he's willing to come on with us first of all the streamers.
When we see the picture, it will be difficult to deny the heritage.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I agree. And then we're also working on doing an on-camera interview with him that Michael and I will do separately, and that we will then play for all of you subsequently. So we're trying to get 2 shots, by the way, at Chris Tacopina. But
well, now we got this, you know, end of the case pending versus next time we talk to him might be
after and right, exactly. So maybe you know, or maybe we'll talk to him more. We'll see. Kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I've asked. We're also trying to get some other people on. I'd love to have the attorney Yogelman on that the article was on, and also the attorneys for the 2 DAs that have said they're going to sue John Lewin for retaliation because of their position on Menendez. Oh, brother. But this is what happens. How does an appeal work? Does it mean the case has to go on trial? Go ahead. It's a good question.
Well, you know, many things could happen, you know, because obviously it'll depend on the grounds for appeal. There will be many. If there is a conviction, there will be lots of grounds for appeal. And the appellate court looks at it, and they look at it, and they look at the trial court record. That's what they have to rule on. They don't ask for more evidence. They don't have witnesses come in. They look at the record, right? And they will either decide there were no errors, conviction confirmed. There were errors, but they were harmless. That's where it gets real dicey. Or there were errors and they were reversible. And if that happens, then there's generally a remand. And the remand could be either for a new trial, or it could be to flesh out an issue that the appellate court felt was not properly presented. So those are all the options.
Yeah. Hey, Neil Rockhind is in our chat. Hi, Rock and Neil. Hi, Rock and Neil.
The Rockweiler is here.
Yeah. Let's settle this like civilized individuals, and maybe Neil will come on later on and answer your questions. Lewin, I'll hear everything. Hey, I'm thrilled for that. Let's
bring it on.
I've asked him to undo the gag order, Neil. Right? I read before. You think that he's kind of like Neil also says that I think Joe would win in a physical fight, but I think John wins with the phrase "Your Honor." How about the one about sit down and stop yelling at me that the judge said to him? You know, how about that? You know, I mean that was it's just I had no words, and I mean he keeps
that
going
doesn't happen very often. Oh, wait a minute, we have Lewin is going to reach out to us here. There you go. Okay, well said. Well said.
Oh, that's Lewin. There we go. Yeah, no, you think about that, right, Neil? And Neil said it well also on what really had that pause where if I thought it was going to be this difficult, pause, right? You know,
so damning.
It's so damning, right? So damning, you know. Creed, we're going to air everything that happened in this case, and he can get away with it because he's a jackass. Nobody wants to discuss stuff with more than needed. Oh, tell us how you really feel. It's just I had no words. I have no words. Okay, I can't. So we talked about the hung jury or not. We talked about whether Rocky can appeal or not. We talked about whether there's an officer of the court or not, and whether Joe is too long. I know you're putting your questions in here. They're fast and furious, as you can see. Neil Rockhind, I love it. An exclusive interview with John Lewin. Neil, we're gonna let you go find to get that. You know.
It would be fun. I'd be happy to do one. It would be so fun.
Yeah. It would actually. It would be. Well, you never know. He may, because he may say he wants to, depending on what happens, set the record straight. You know, because no matter what we think about this case, there's a jury there, and we've had a poll, and like 85% say not guilty, but I think 50%. Was it 15% or 5%?
It was 8%. 8% didn't know, and 7% said guilty. So
yeah, so you have 8%, maybe one juror, or you need one person to hang this jury in favor of a guilty and it has to be retried or dismissed. So whenever you try a case to a jury, you don't know. You just don't know.
Neil, this is better than a soap opera. It has, as we've said before, it's kind of grown beyond the underlying case, right?
Right.
and in most cases, this would never be in trial,
Yeah,
even if it
yeah.
was a more legitimate assault with a deadly weapon case.
And N. White Del Sol says Lewin just won't stop once he's made a point. He's the definition of beating a dead horse. Okay. Wait a second. This is great, Creed. But if we have an interview on, we'll have to lower the.
That's right. How about this? Is there a time limit on the rebuttal? Unfortunately, apparently not.
Apparently not. So, Neil. Plus, since when can't a lawyer say that is a reasonable doubt? I've never heard a worse objection. Right. Lewin was arguing that because Joe would say that this fact is a reasonable doubt, it causes the whole case to fall. Lewin would say, "Objection, Your Honor. The jury charges that you have to take all the facts together, and if they form reasonable doubt, then you have reasonable doubt." It's ridiculous.
Of course, because if you find reasonable doubt on one of the items, then you have the reasonable doubt that you need. Right. But the court corrected him and sort of referred to the instructions, which they will get.
Yeah, and so
he's read them, but they'll get them.
They'll get them too. Yeah. Is Angela Cote. How long will into Lewin's closing does he start to yell? Okay, so now we had the bet on the according to the judge, I win. There's 17.
No, he didn't give an updated. It's gonna because there were some after that.
We had like 33. We
did
33.
He had 17 before that break, and then there were more after that. So he's got to have 20 even by the most favorable count.
Right. Exactly.
Nobody went. Well, somebody said 55.
Bob Mata's here. Bob, we are so sorry about your uncle. As you know, Bob Mata's uncle died. Right. I'm so sorry about your uncle. Bob O'Reilly, I'm not sure what you want, but our closing's done. No, John Lewin has to go, and we are going to probably listen to part of him. Yes, but we're going to do the interview with Chris Tacopina, even if it comes into we pause and then we go at 125 speed or whatever, or let it run. Even if it goes into that, because we want to hear from Joe Tacopina's son. I think I tweeted out earlier today my favorite, and I don't know which one of you did it. I have it here somewhere. Okay. Let me see if I find.
Is this the ASAP taco?
Yes. Who called? Who called?
I think
Joe
it was
a nickname ASAP Taco.
It starts with an M, short name.
Matter of fact, I think I do have it here. It was Micah.
There you go.
Micah. Okay. Nickname Joe. He's going to give ASAP Taco. So I guess, Chris, if you're listening, we're going to have ASAP Taco. Mini. I don't know what ASAP Taco Grasses. I don't know what you call it.
ASAP Taquito.
ASAP Taquito. Okay, that's good. I love it. ASAP Taquito. Missy will tell us we're hopefully about 5 minutes away before. Remember Chris is driving out in somewhere in Florida, and so we're going to be so defense diaries. Any other questions? Here we go. Here's a great cop. Defense. Holy shit!
Yeah,
you had to see.
That sounds like Bob.
You had to see holy shit. You had to see holy shit earlier, and we have the clip. I know Dizzy. Thank you for Dizzy. She's going to post it on Justice Serve TV at Justice Serve TV or on our YouTube where the boys were fighting. Maybe on our YouTube. I don't know. You had to see what happened in court, including the judge yelling, Bob, to Lewin to lower your voice and stop yelling at him. That's the judge telling Lewin, because Lewin won't accept what the judge had to say about his rulings.
And Lewin will say, "Judge, the jury's not here. I just want to make a record." And the judge said, "Well, you can do that, but just lower your voice."
Yeah, it's been holy shit. It's been like nothing you've ever seen. You couldn't make a movie about this. And when they make the movie about this, whatever it's going to be, I don't know how. First of all, I don't know.
Here's how part of it goes. I'm out of order. You're out of order. This whole courtroom is out of order. There.
But and also in fairness, I don't think Lewin has ever encountered somebody as going to stand his ground as Joe Tacopina. And Joe did a masterful job. I've said this a number of times. He was able to pull back. He knew how to deal with the California jury and how to address them and all. But when they were out of the presence of the jury, when Lewin went after him, he got on Lewin's nerves. Lewin got on all of our nerves. So we're all thankful, I think. I mean, certainly our viewers are thankful for it. Play the clip. We played the clip once. You want to play the clip again you want to play the clip again?
We could do that while we wait for Chris to come on, and
Yeah.
then if he pops on, we can.
Ray Pacino, Michael. Yeah, look. Say.
Hey, there you go.
There's
your boy.
There he is.
Okay, I'm going to play this again.
Do not mention
For those who didn't enjoy this before.
Here's a quote. On an objection, you overrule. The prosecution accepts their witness committing perjury. It's improper. It's unethical. You've said you're not going to tolerate it, and I object. And you make it clear to the jury that my objection you find annoying. It's very clear that the tone that we get when we make an objection that should be sustained is, what are you doing? That's what was said. You specifically...
Lower your voice and don't yell at me. I told you before. I'll listen to what you say. Speak in a normal tone of voice.
Judge, we're doing the best we can to make sure that this trial is ethically conducted. They have repeated, I've objected, you told them it's improper. You overruled repeated objections where they are saying improper things. He just said a moment ago, this is a direct quote, the prosecution accepts their witness committing perjury. I object. You respond, that's appropriate comment on the evidence. It is not appropriate comment on the evidence, Your Honor. I don't know if you didn't hear it.
I didn't hear that.
So, Judge,
What I heard, I could have been wrong, what I heard was that Mr. Tacopina was describing Relly as committing perjury.
Judge, that's a direct quote. The direct quote was, the prosecution accepts their witness committing perjury. Here's another one. Relly committed extortion. There is no legal...
Do you think the jury's going to ask for what the legal description of extortion is?
Your Honor.
Forcing someone to pay money, that is, quote, extortion.
No, Your Honor.
Go on to something else.
Your Honor, I want to make my record. I mean, you're going to do what you're going to do, but I have a right to make my record. No lawyer can get up here, no lawyer can get up here and tell the jury that a crime has been committed when there is no instruction on that crime. When in fact, Your Honor, that's not the legal definition of extortion. We've objected, and the court again is basically telling me, don't worry about it, it doesn't matter. Your Honor, it does matter, and after a while, when there are so many of these things, they add up. And when the court is saying, wow, what they don't care about it.
No, I didn't say they don't care about it.
It seems, Your Honor, it's improper argument. And the problem is...
I don't agree with you. I think using the word, quote, extortion to describe the conduct is not improper. I think it's fair comment on the evidence. You, in your rebuttal argument, you can say it wasn't extortion.
Your
you
Honor,
can address it.
Your Honor, the bigger issue, as I said, is the court repeatedly told them, do not connect the prosecution to committing crime.
I'll tell you what, I didn't hear that. I'm going to ask Kathy for the exact quote. If that's what was said, I'm going to sustain your objection, and I will apologize for overruling.
Judge, can I respond, please, on that one issue? Not everything else you said. What I said was, and I agree with what I said, but understand the context of it, okay? I didn't say this is more perfect. I didn't say it yesterday, I didn't say it today. But one thing I said, and it was fair comment, was the prosecution accepts their witness committing perjury. And what I mean by that is in regards to one thing, and it's indisputable, Your Honor. It was regarding Relly saying the tape was fake. The tape was fake. They got up, cross-examined Mr. Sajemi, did not ask him if the tape was fake or not, okay? They then put up transcripts of that tape recording with attributions to Mr. Efron. So that means by that, just by that very fact, they accept the fact that he committed perjury. I'm not saying they support it, but they accept that witness committed perjury. They have to. Let me finish. There's no other way for them to move forward unless they say that wasn't perjury, but it was because he said that was fake. We know that wasn't fake. It was real. That was perjury. So by them moving forward with it, arguing that that tape is important for the prosecution, that Efron said these things, that when they cross-examined Mr. Jemmy, that wasn't being a good friend to Efron because he made a tape. All that is doing is, I didn't say this is warning, it's different. I would never say that, I didn't say it yesterday. What it is doing is accepting it, because they didn't say, you know, we have an issue with this witness, he's committed perjury. I said they accepted their witnesses committing perjury. That witness committing perjury on that one issue. That's fair comment, Your Honor. It's not inappropriate. It wasn't disparaging counsel. I didn't say Mr. Lewin. I just said they accepted, and that is true. That there's no other way around it.
It is not fair comment. It is completely unethical.
Oh,
I agree with you.
So, Your Honor,
I agree with you.
What's frightening is Mr. Tacopina just stood up here and basically defended, said, yeah, I said it, but I can say it. He doesn't know or care about the law. That is clear. And Your Honor, when it's happened 25 times in this trial, with the hiding of evidence, with the late discovery, and with repeated, you told counsel before we started, do not disparage the other side. I said yesterday, you argue what you want about witnesses. You say a witness lied. You do not disparage counsel. You repeated it yesterday. He tried to explain how he didn't make mistakes yesterday, which he did. Now he gets up and he's now admitted, yes, I made that comment, here's why it's appropriate. Your Honor, it's not appropriate. It's completely unethical. It is immoral, and it's not professional. And again, Your Honor, the fact that he is getting up here saying, yeah, I said it, here's why, just demonstrates again, he doesn't know the law or doesn't care.
You're disparaging him right now.
I'm disparaging him because, Your Honor, he's not following the
There
rules.
is not to be any disparaging.
Rocky's had enough. He's at it.
During argument, the jury's not here. I have every right, obligation, and duty to stand up here. And
Right,
point
obligation,
out
and
it's
duty.
unethical. The first time the court catches me being unethical, Your Honor, the court knows. That'd be the
First time.
Court knows. I don't do that.
Oh,
Court knows.
All
Court's
right,
already made those
I've heard enough from both of you. I missed the prosecution accepts their witness committing perjury. I don't think that's fair comment on the evidence. I think that's an improper statement. It infers that the prosecution is allowing perjury to occur. I'm going to sustain your objection, and I'm going to apologize for overruling it, and then move on. If I were the two of you, I would just move on and not make bring it to the jury's attention. I would point out, though, I told you at the beginning of arguments that if an objection is made, I'm going to do my best to call it as I see it. You have made 17 objections. I have overruled 12. I have sustained 5. I'm doing the best I can. I will continue to do the best I can, and that's all I can say.
I just want to put on the record that, these remarks about being unethical is not just about had it with him. This from a lawyer who, and I was saying yesterday on it, this from a lawyer who asked in front of a jury for a stipulation that a shooting range was not in California when either he knew it was in California or had no idea that it was in California. Okay? So he literally asked for a stipulation in front of a jury that he knew was not true or didn't know if it was true. And that's unethical. That's unethical. And this is a guy who, the Ninth Circuit just said lied to a jury in the Branford case.
Your Honor,
so
Your Honor, Your Honor,
about him
one more thing out of him, and we air everything that's happened in this case, which the court's aware of.
Stop.
He might want to stop.
I'm so glad.
You should be, Joe.
Oh,
Let's take a break.
You should be.
no appellate courts ever told me I was a liar.
Hey.
Oh, yeah. I'm so scared of you.
Stop it!
One last stop it.
Stop it!
From the judge.
Stop it! But that's Lewin. Lewin who's doing this. It's Lewin who's doing this. I mean, you know what? I am so thrilled that Joe Tacopina is not kowtowing down to him, and I'm also thrilled that the judge tells him to stop it. Stop it. I guess the judge is handcuffed in the sense of he had to bring him to contempt. But this is this is crazy. It's ridiculous. It's not befitting of someone being on trial. If you have a man on trial that can go to jail for what, 10, 24 years, all right? And this is the kind of trash that we're going to talk about. And I'm not saying to Joe, I'm talking about Lewin. And you want to call me after this finishes, Mr. Lewin, again, like you did in the Durst case when I had the special on another channel? Please feel free. Release the gag order. Let me know whether anyone asked you whether you should continue with this prosecution based on ethics. I really want to know that answer. Okay. All right.
Now, the judge bailed him out a little bit there by suggesting that if you say the prosecution's okay with a witness who perjured himself, you're basically attributing that perjury to the prosecution. And the court said, no, that you can't do that. And the court then, this was a break before Joe finished up, and the court didn't apologize to the jury. Said, hey, I missed the wording on that objection. I overruled it. I should have sustained it. And then they